Can you hear me now, internet? Happy Wednesday, my friend. It's so good to see you. I hope that you have been having a wonderful start to the week and that you really enjoyed last week's session all about AI because boy, oh boy, are we going to get back into it today. Because as you can probably tell, as we start off the new year, I really had it as one of my New Year's goals to dig into AI more, not necessarily to like revamp my life or totally flip things on its head, but really just to be aware of what's going on. So not necessarily do the ostrich approach of just stick my head in the sand and all this AI stuff is happening and I have no idea what's going on, but to really just become familiar with it. I don't have to be an expert. She like layman's terms, like just basic. And I feel like so many people I talk to, whether it's founders, whether it's management, whether it's interns, whether it's assistants, everyone, it seems to me, is kind of on the same page, which is like, sounds cool, seems interesting. What do I do? Or like, and yes, I'm sure there's some like C-suite level people that are like, I'm optimizing the entire backend system. But if you're just kind of like a regular schmegular worker, like I am, like, what does it all mean? Like, what should we be doing? And so I'm really excited about today's conversation with Ray because I feel like we're just going to dig into that practicality so much more. And I feel like when I really consume his content, to me, one of the greatest things he does is he makes it relatable. So I've definitely listened to podcasts about AI and I've definitely looked at courses and I'm like lost, like #lost, like straight from the beginning. And the reason I love Ray so much is he doesn't make me feel lost. He makes me feel like, okay, like, yeah, I kind of understand that. And so I was really excited to kind of share some of that goodness with Naomi and Richard and Muhammad and David and Jeff and Giacomo and James and everybody who is joining on over in the chat. So there's two ways to approach this. You can sit back, relax, and absorb Ray and my conversation, and you can take those gems and takeaways and you can implement it in your life. And that's great. And we love that. And you can do that by watching this on video, or you can do that via your favorite podcast. Or, and I like to think that this is way more fun, you can lean forward. You can get those fingers to type in and you can join the chat. You can tell us what your favorite tips and tricks and tactics are because sharing is caring. And you can also ask Ray questions. I don't know if you want to ask me any questions about this because I'm going to be the one asking Ray a lot of questions, but you're welcome to ask me as well. So 2 ways to approach. Choose your own adventure, friends. I'm so excited to see that Lee and David and Benoit and Naomi just have such great conversations already rocking and rolling in the chat. So without further ado, pull up a chair, pick up the cup with whatever caffeine you might have in it, and help me welcome Ray to our coffee chat. Hi, Ray.
Oh, coffee here. How's it going?
How are you?
I'm doing so good. That was such a great intro. And what I loved about it was that you really captured where my heart is, which is really trying to make things simple. I'm a fairly technical person, and I totally geek out on extreme sort of cutting edge, bleeding edge type of stuff. But I think my heart is really about remembering what it was like when I didn't know things. I had to learn English as a second language. And I think that taught me that English isn't the easiest language to learn. And that really sort of spoke to my heart as I need to sort of try to figure out how I learn things and how frustrating it was when people would say words like a couple. I remember that to me, because that can mean different things. Sometimes that means two, right? But sometimes it means an indeterminate amount of time. And I remember that was difficult because I would use it incorrectly when I was learning the language, and then people would catch me on it. And then I learned, oh, it's not two, although technically it is. And you can't always use it as two. Sometimes it has could be a few minutes. It could be some other thing. So that sort of heart of wanting to simplify complex topics is really what I'm trying to do. And I think that it's not something that I say out loud, but the fact that you brought it up really speaks to my heart.
No, it's so true because I feel like I was kind of alluding to, I've tried to consume some more AI content as part of my like New Year goals, resolution, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
And I've gotten into some podcasts where like in the first 5 minutes, I am like literally lost with a capital L. Like just from the start, I'm like, whoa. And the thing that I really love about your LinkedIn learning courses and the content that you put out is it just feels really approachable. It doesn't make me feel lost. It might confuse me. I might have to rewatch it a few
Right.
times and like pause the screen and like really look at it, but I do understand it. And that to me is not everybody has that skill set that is super knowledgeable. So
I
thank
appreciate
you
that.
for sharing that goodness with us.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to be here. You've got such an amazing lineup of guests. I went to the YouTube website and I saw all the previous guests. I'm in fantastic company. I watched some of the videos that I watched David last week, and I watched some of the other guests that you've had, and they're really great. It's a great approach. I really love. And when you said coffee, I'm like, I'm in. I'm ready.
You're
Let's go.
like
Although I
done.
did notice that you were drinking tea last week, I think. So it was more
I
like
know. That's the big joke is that joke's on me because I always end up drinking tea. So one of the things I love about your content specifically, Ray, is that you teach a lot of AI tools. So you're not like a one trick pony, it's a
Mhm.
little bit of this and a little bit of that. And if you want to try this other thing, but I love that you really dig into the fact that when people think of AI, they think of magic, like
Mhm.
just sort of like, boom, it's done for me. And instead, you really talk about how it should be thought of as leverage. And I just wanted you to kind of touch on that because I think that's a really unique selling point.
Yeah, I think that AI itself is today more of a multiplier of
Yeah.
whatever you are. They say that when people get more power, they become of more of who they are. And I feel like AI is sort of like that. It helps you leverage things that you understand and multiply your ability to do things much faster and much more competently, I think, that you can do by yourself. I don't think that the AIs are definitely not ready to take over someone's job quite yet. They're really trying. There's a lot of movement towards things that can become, self-sustaining and running agents. They're not there. I think the people that think that they can take away jobs right now have never had like a service contract on their washing machine, basically. Because the washing machine only works for like a year or two, and then you got to
Yeah.
have some repair person come in. It's like that with AI. Right now, the tools are difficult to use, but they can already be quite helpful, and they can really help multiply your skills and work at a different pace than you've ever worked at before, which is really, sort of interesting because it makes you rethink what you're capable of and what you should be focusing on and doing. But it's really, like I said, it's just like power. The more AI you use, the more of you there's going to be, basically.
Exactly. No, and I'm just curious, like from your standpoint, because I feel like it's sort of on the cusp, on the cusp of where a lot of people are. When did you personally go from, okay, AI is interesting, this is kind of cool, to, okay, this actually changes how I work every day?
Hmm.
Because I feel like kind of getting over that bridge or that barrier, once you're over it, it's huge. But how did you navigate across that bridge?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of sort of different points that have modified how I've used AI. And I came from originally I have a degree in journalism, and I started as a graphic designer, but then I went to work for a newspaper, and I worked there for about 5 years, a couple years in a newsroom. That was a great experience. Then I moved onto a radio station. Then I moved to a TV station. And then I started just exclusively working on the internet, and I came into LinkedIn learning lynda.com at the time. So I've seen a lot of transition, and I've seen a lot of things that were supposed to die continue to exist in a different form. Like if you think about how radio has really evolved into podcasting, and how
Yeah.
before you might listen to somebody for 5 minutes in the morning as you were driving to work. Today you listen to dozens of podcasts, and there are thousands of podcasts. That was a switch of the availability of what the tools could do, and a transformation of what happened. So I think that that's what happened with AI over time. It started out as something sort of cute and interesting, a chatbot. You can talk to it. It could help you with writing, potentially. That was a great sort of first tool that you could, make it useful to help you write things. Like I loved whenever I have to write those like HR sort of reviews of people. I love feeding it like what I'm thinking, which isn't necessarily written in a neutral sort of HR way, and they can rewrite things really well, really impressive. As somebody who is primarily, this is one thing people don't know about my job, that I know that I cover a lot of content. I do a lot of technical, how to program these AI tools. But my primary function is actually writing. If you were to sort of segment what I actually do, it's mostly writing, some editing, uh, and so the writing tools became a really important way for me to get work done quickly. But then the tools
Mhm.
started expanding, and they started gaining capabilities. We went from what you call LLMs, large language models, where the tools understood language really well, and they were able to do that translation. As a matter of fact, all these tools started out as a translation algorithm, right? They learned how translation works, which is sort of different than a normal writing. When you translate from one language to another, you never translate word for word. You have to first understand the meaning of what the person is trying to say. That's why it's always delayed. Even when they say this is a real-time translation, you'll see that they wait until the person says enough so that they can understand, the person translating, or the computer can understand when they're going, and they translate not the words, they translate the meaning. And I think that's what David talked about last week when he talked about context and how important that is. The context is the most important thing. Computers are great at taking context and translating it into something else, which can be a different form of writing. It can be a different, so a task list, a tool. But what they started gaining was capabilities beyond text. So they started to be able to generate images, or generate audio, or generate video, generate all kinds of content based on the same sort of patterns, like the same sort of, the fact that they can absorb content and learn the patterns is what really makes it special. Once they started sort of gaining all these capabilities, they became more and more useful. So I could do my thumbnails all of a sudden, or I could, now create documents with like Excel that were useful, create dashboards to analyze data without having to write Excel formulas, create research documents. So those are, sort of the points at which the tools have sort of started to help me more and more, and help me to be able to sort of adapt what I would normally do and make it much richer. Like when I write now, if you look at my posts, they often have a lot of data in them. I'm not just saying something like, last week, or say like over Christmas, I created this new website. I'm saying I did, and this is all very technical terms, but I'm specifying I did 400 commits. I released, 12 new features. I deployed, all that comes with numbers now, because it's much easier for me to ask the AI, hey, tell me what I actually did in this project, and it can spit those numbers out. So there's the quality of what I'm explaining becomes better, because I now have a lot of data that can support what I'm saying. And so I think learning, I mean, those points of transition have been really important in helping me figure out how over time I keep on adding my ability to be better at being myself, like doing what I do, and be more compelling in how I write and how I speak.
Totally. Well, I mean, you touched on a lot of different things there, writing, video, visuals. And I'm just curious, is there a task that you just refuse to do manually anymore, or you just basically do not do manually at all because AI does it better and or faster than you?
That's a great point. I think lots of things, it's not that it's doing things completely for me, but it's offloading parts of the things that I would normally have to do, um, that it can do much quicker. So for example, like video editing, I edit all my videos, which a lot of people don't know that I end up doing that. So
Yeah.
I use this tool called Descript. I don't know if you've used it. Really great AI sort of video editing tool. One of the things that it does is it takes a lot of times when you're working with AI, you're waiting for the AI to finish something. Like you're just
Right.
sitting there waiting for a reply, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
so what this thing does is it will take a 45-minute recording and it will find all those spots where I was just waiting for something to happen and it'll crush them all out and then give me
Mm,
a 10-minute like edit, like quick edit. It will do things like because I'm mostly working with teleprompters, I'm always
yeah.
saying things. I'll speak my intro and then
Right.
I'll say, let me try that again. I think it needs to be more impactful. So it will go through and it will analyze all the places in the video where I repeated myself and it'll just crush all those. It'll find the best one and it'll just edit out all the extra ones, saving me a ton of time. So
Wow.
it's not really doing everything for me, but it's taking the things that I wouldn't have done, right? I wouldn't have edited my videos as much or as cleanly because it just would have taken me so much longer. And that's what I love about what the tools can sometimes do. Um,
Yeah. And
now,
that one's just script, you said?
yeah, Descript, yeah. So
Descript.
we can put
Okay.
it in the links.
Yeah.
You know.
No, we'll definitely add it to the chat. And it kind of syncs up perfectly for this question that Jeff was asking, which is like, Ray, what AI tools do you recommend for decks or videos or ideation? So it sounds like for
So
videos, you use
Descript for sure.
Descript.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the decks are a little bit difficult. And I think David talked about this last week. They're horrible at doing decks. They'll do quick, reasonable
Yeah.
looking decks right now. I think the tools are getting better. I think the tool that does it the best right now, and it makes sense that it would do this, is Copilot. Is actually really good at building decks.
Okay.
The Gemini is also really good, but you have to know how to do it because you have to turn on the canvas feature and ask it to do a slide for you. And then
Got
it
it.
will build like an actual HTML, like a web page slide, but then that converts into Google Slides. Really good. But they're not
Yeah.
good at taking like a template that you use all the time and making it look like that.
Right.
So in terms of tools, yeah, those are a lot of the tools. The other thing, this really weird thing can happen to every developer last Christmas, like during the holidays. Like during the holidays, every developer figured out that they're no longer better than computers at programming, all of them at the same time.
Mm,
I call this the Gary Kasparov moment. He was a famous chess player, like way in the day, and he had these big sort of chess tournaments against an IBM supercomputer back in the day.
yeah. Yeah.
Eventually, the computers started to beat him, and everybody then realized, okay, we finally reached the point where computers are better at chess than we are. So, and what's funny is that did that destroy chess? Did people not play chess anymore? No, there's probably more people playing chess than ever now. You've seen probably like lots of YouTube channels that dedicate themselves to like just that as a hobby. So um, that was really shocking to a lot of developers. But what happens is really that because everybody kind of took a break for the holidays, companies like our company shuts down for a week. So you have
Right.
all these developers that have like a week. And what do they do? Developers, what do they do when they have extra time? They go program something. That's because that's fun for us.
Right.
Right? So everybody did that. But then they realized, wow, these models, I think it was like called Opus 4.5, are actually
Yeah.
just better. So I don't nobody, you know, I'm not gonna say nobody, but a lot of developers don't type code anymore. They're really like orchestrators. They're telling the tools to just build this for me, build that for me. And that's
Yeah.
what I was referring to earlier, that I'm, now instead of adding one feature to a tool over that week, I could do 40 changes that would have each
Yeah.
taken me a week to do. And I think that's coming. That's really what I think a lot of people are concerned about. That's coming to everything else. You're going to start to have to reevaluate what it is that you actually do. Kim, like what is it?
Totally.
What's
No,
the
I mean,
core thing that you do?
that
Yeah.
was going to be one of my questions is like, obviously like AI is only going to infiltrate the workplace more
Mhm.
and more. So I'm curious, like, what skills do you think will matter even more, a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, so
Yeah.
that we're not necessarily in the same position as those developers who kind of had this like aha moment of like, wait a minute, I can be out developed by
Right,
a
right.
computer. What skill sets do you think are going to matter more and not less in
Yeah,
the
so I
future?
think what's funny is that it's the same thing for what happened to me with video, that
Yeah.
that, the same thing as what happened to me with programming. I don't edit do all the edits that I used to do. Like, I don't have to go and, find all those spots where I wasn't doing anything. I was waiting for the computer and edit those out manually by making like click, 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 delete, click, click. I would have to do that for like an hour, just getting rid of those empty spaces, right? The computers
Yeah.
just do that better. In the same way, with what's interesting about the programming world is that they adjusted to it very quickly. They went from, oh, I don't have to do any code anymore. What does that mean? Like, what do I do now? What can't the computers do? uh, that I can do. And I think a lot of it is the decision making. It's I say I compare it to when you go to a library, you have the whole world's worth of knowledge right in front of you, right? So you can pull a book on anything, electrical engineering, how to build a house, whatever. It doesn't mean that you know how to do that thing, right? It doesn't mean that you are able to use that knowledge. So what becomes more important is say if you're building a website or whatever you're doing, you're building a tool. What makes that tool a good tool? Because computers are
Mhm.
like a library. They have so much information that they almost can't decide on what a good thing is, because a good thing is kind of relative. It depends on the person who's using it. And developers really understand how to build good software, like good developers.
Mhm.
They've quickly adjusted from being the typists to being the thinkers and the orchestrators. There's still a lot of work. So I think what it's doing is making us build things faster and quicker, and giving us more time to think about what makes something good. And I think that it's the same thing with editing. Like I said, it's not that I still edit, but I just do my edits are better.
Doing it in a different way,
Yeah.
basically now.
Mhm.
I also really love this question from Giacomo. From everything that you've seen kind of exploring this space more in depth over the past year, what are some of the most useful or lesser known kind of tricks that you've seen that you think that people should start to try to integrate into their work life?
Yeah, I think that learning what the tools can help you automate,
Mhm.
and sort of starting to find out what your core function is as an individual. I think is probably the key thing. There are so many tools, and I do love all the tools. I use all of them. I am the one person whose full-time job it is to go learn everything. So I could,
Right.
tell you about the different tools. Let me give you an example. Maybe you can share my screen. So
Yeah.
I'm going to start with Google Gemini. Okay, every chatbot is good at doing different things. Gemini is really good at making connections to Google services. So
Okay.
I love Gemini whenever I have to travel somewhere. I had a trip to New York a
Mm.
few weeks ago.
Okay.
And if you think about it, what does Google have that nobody else has? Right? They have
Access to the
access to,
internet.
yeah, they have excellent search, right? They
Yep.
also have all the business info you could possibly want in the world.
Right.
If you need to ask a question about a business, Google already knows that. It's in their
Right.
database. So, what else do they have? They have Google Maps, really useful, changed the world. They have Google Hotels, they have Google Flights, they have YouTube. So, what can you do with that? I had to go to New York a few weeks ago, as I mentioned, and I fed Gemini my itinerary, just, for after you book the flight with your company's booking
Yeah.
product, and I told it, hey, I would love to try to visit the Statue of Liberty. Here's my itinerary. Here's when I get there. Can I make it? Right? Because there's only a certain amount of time that you have
Right.
before the ferries like close in New York.
Yeah.
And so, and if you're in New York, there's 3 airports, right? There's
Right.
trains, subways, Ubers. There's like all these, just like in San Francisco, there's all these transportation options. So
Yep.
what it did was, because it has Google Maps, Google Businesses, Google, all the Google products, it was able to give me an accurate itinerary. Okay, you're going to get to this airport at this time. You need to go here, download this app, get the tickets for the train. Here's the train that you need to take. That's going to take you this long. Then you're going to arrive at this exit. You need to move it to
Wow.
your. So it was extremely accurate at telling me exactly where to go, what to do, what apps to download, how much everything was going to cost me, and what I needed to do to book with the proper businesses. Like, it knew the correct ferry location. And that was
Right.
revolutionary. I'm like, I'm never planning a trip without this thing again, because you end up just utilizing what the tool is really good at. The other thing that it's good at is YouTube. If you need to
Yeah.
summarize a YouTube, like a TED Talk, you don't want to watch the whole thing, you want the highlights.
Right.
Or you need to find quotes. Like, when I worked at newspapers and TV stations, we were often looking for clips of people to include in some video that we were doing, right? So it's very good at, you can tell it, find me some quotes from Dan Bricklin, the inventor of the spreadsheet, and get me some great quotes about some of the things that he said when he was working on the spreadsheet. And boom, it'll find you the clips, it'll find you the time codes, show you that immediately. So Gemini, very good at that. The other thing that it's amazing at is a tool I call Deep Research, probably my favorite
Okay.
tool in the world. And Deep Research is what I use whenever I have a question that I wanted to go through. And it's like a Uber search, where you just give it a problem for
Oh,
it to figure
amazing.
out. So you could say, tell me what impacts AI has had in workforce efficiency. Use data that's only 6 months or newer, something like that. Just a question like that. And I use this whenever I'm writing, or I'm, doing courses, or, whatever I'm doing. I tell it, go do a task, do all the research for me, and it will go and do a bunch of, it's going to actually make a plan for you. And then after it makes the plan, it's going to execute that plan, and it's going to be super thorough. Search through dozens of websites, use every tool that it has at its fingertips, and give you a report. So you can say start research. Once it makes the plan, you can review the plan and edit the plan if you want to, but you can then tell it to go do that research, and it'll go take care of that. I'm going to show you something where I was working with a Stanford researcher who deals with birth data, the facts, and doing research with those tools. And this is kind of what the reports, actually, no, this is not exactly the one I'm looking for. Yeah, this is then, I'll show you an example of what this looks like when it's done. So here's the report that it made for me. It looked through dozens and dozens of websites. At the bottom, it gives you all the references of what it looked at to create the report. And then throughout the report, you'll see that it builds all these charts and graphs to help you explain things. Some of these are interactive, right? So I don't think that one is interactive, but some of them are things that you can slide and see what happens when you do this, right? Or what would happen if the conditions of this change. And so it's really pretty amazing. Like, that report is unbelievably cool, but you could do more than that.
Wow.
You can say, okay, well, that's fantastic, but I really
And
want to
this is
show.
all just in like the regular Gemini
Yeah, just
program,
the
or
regular
this is not
Gemini
like fancy
available.
Gemini.
Yeah, even in the free version, you can
Oh,
use it.
wow.
So
Okay.
Google is the most what do you call it? Generous free plan out of all the tools, and it has this deep research in it. So what else? What else can you do? Well, like, okay, that was really nice, but what if I want to show this data to somebody, or give somebody like a takeaway? I can export this and let people look at this later. But what if I want to see this in a sort of a website format, where all the charts and graphs, I take the key points out of that research, and I just want you to kind of create a web page for me. So I could do that too. I just build a little web page just with another. Again, my commands aren't particularly difficult
Wow.
here. I could just say, do this research and then come back. And now I want to see a web page version of this. You can even tell it, if you're going to a meeting, you can even say something like, all right, there's a create box here. And this is where you say, build me a web page, a quiz, flashcards. And then you can actually say, I need a one pager for a form that I'm going to a meeting and I want like a takeaway one pager. So you can just tell it,
Right.
uh, prepare a takeaway one pager for executives. And it'll go, one of the things I love about AI is that it doesn't care if you can't type. Take away. Yeah. And it'll go build out for you very quickly. So that's great. What else can it do though? And
Wow.
it can actually generate you a podcast version of this research that it did. So if you have 5 minutes before you go somewhere, you can download this. And I'll play a little bit of this. This is basically two people talking to each other about the research that you just asked them to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can hear that. Can you hear that?
No, but I believe you that they're having a good chit chat about it.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this question that Aaron asked because he's saying that ChatGPT also has a research
Correct.
function, but you like the Gemini better. for
Gemini's
research.
version is incredibly okay, Gemini invented this feature.
Okay.
Usually whoever invents it does a better job.
Okay.
And
Okay.
they are leagues
There we go,
better.
Aaron.
Yeah, leagues better
Straight.
than ChatGPT. ChatGPT tried to copy it, and usually they're just trying to say we've also got that, but it's not anywhere near the same. And again,
Not the same.
remember, Google knows businesses better than anyone else. They know maps, they know all these things
Right.
that ChatGPT doesn't quite have the sort of level of access. So that's one tool that I use. There's many others. You saw my
Yeah.
course on like co-work and how revolutionary that is.
Exactly.
The things that you can build with the tools are unbelievable. So I think like research is the number one thing that I use whenever I'm writing anything. I
Yeah.
usually fire up a couple of research things. Just get me some data that I can talk about this, or give me some numbers when I'm writing a post. I just wanted to find some stuff for me. The tools just do a lot better than anything that I would do. And
Totally.
again, it's like the editing. I don't have to
Right.
do the little crops anymore. I don't have to find and organize and get things anymore. Um, so I think that that's really, I would say, if you haven't tried research, incorporate it. Next time you plan a trip, go to Gemini. It's the best. Now,
Yeah.
ChatGPT is like the Swiss Army sort of first tool that everybody goes to. It
Right.
has a number of great features. I think that it is a fantastic overall sort of tool, great at creating images. I think one thing that they have that is really unique is the ability of, they just added this, and I think everybody's going to get these, but OpenAI does it, I think, the best, and it's the ability to call upon different apps inside
Oh, right.
ChatGPT and add them as context. Remember, context is
Yes.
the understanding of the information that you have. So, say for example that you're trying to find some homes somewhere. So I'm going to pull up the Zillow app and I'm going to say I'm looking for some rental properties with potential in the tri-state North Florida area, and you can give it that task. And
Yeah.
what it's going to do is it's going to pull up a version of the Zillow app directly inside ChatGPT and let you use Zillow in ChatGPT. The difference is that the results now become part of your conversation. So
Right.
this is a way of using Zillow to retrieve some data, and this is kind of like the Florida tri-state area here, and you can start just using like Zillow how you normally would. But this isn't just
Yeah.
Zillow. This is still ChatGPT. So once you're done doing your research, you can continue to sort of work with that retrieval of information, uh, you know, within your conversation. So that's another
Mhm.
sort of great tool that I use. I think my other favorite thing would be agentic browsers. So browsers that can do things for you. So for
Okay.
Perplexity, I use this browser called Comet. But now everything has this. Like Gemini released a Chrome, or what is it called? Gemini in Chrome. but all the browsers are getting this feature. Now, what this does
Okay.
is whenever I go and I find a web page, I'll do like research. Let's see about productivity with AI.
Yeah.
This browser, when you use it, when you do a search like this, it doesn't go to search. It goes to
Ah.
Perplexity. So it's not giving you search results, it's giving
Ah.
you answers, right? But the other
Wow.
thing that it does is let's open up one of these articles that it found, right?
Right.
And a lot of times, like I'll be reading a release of a product and I need to build a executive summary for my boss, right? This thing will let you just create a shortcut, and I created one called Exec Summary. And basically, it goes through whatever page you're looking at. It will get you 5 bullet points, an intro paragraph, and an option to
What?
and an option at the bottom that is the impact. Like, how should I use this? Basically, a little bit hard to grab this thing. So, coverage, impact, bullet points, references. And so, once you again, I'm not doing anything
Yeah.
differently, but I just wouldn't have the time to do this level of quick research.
Right.
The other thing is it can
Wow.
take over your browser. Now, this is my favorite. This is like the dumbest, but my favorite feature. Have you ever been on a website and you can't find how to get a hold of somebody or how to cancel a
Yes.
subscription? Hate that.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love humans. Don't send me
Yes.
to a chatbot.
Yeah.
I hate a chatbot.
So this browser can actually take over what you're doing and perform some sort of action. If you're on a website, you can say, go to my Costco, and I want you to go through and search for all the times that I have bought this detergent, and let me see how the price has changed over time. And it's going to work exactly like you would. So I'm going to go here. One of the things that I love to show is if I go to
And this
my
is Comet.
yeah, this is Comet, but all the
Wow.
browsers are getting this feature. So
Okay.
Chrome has a Gemini and Chrome sort of version now, but there is a version of this that lets me see my sort of course analytics. It lets me see how well I'm doing with courses. Now, one
Yeah.
thing that it doesn't have, so this is like all my courses and how many learners I've seen. For some reason, they didn't program a feature that tells me how many learners have watched my courses. I have to, and I used to do this manually, go through every page on this website, add all these up, and it's really difficult to add these because they don't select easily here. So what you could do with this tool is say, uh, oh, it looks like I got out of it. So let me go back into it really quick. Uh, Analytics, and I can say, I would love to find out how many learners have watched my
Wow.
my courses, paginate through all these pages and give me the total, right? So what it's going to do is notice it'll bring up a little blue kind of glow around the page, and it's going to scroll through, click on every paginated page, and then add up all the numbers. And then at the end of this, it's going to give me the result. I don't even have to stay here. I can move on to something else. So notice it scrolled down, it found, and it's telling you what it's doing, paginating. It made a plan for executing that. It's going to scroll down to, and then it's going to click on the next page, add all those numbers. And at the end, it's going to give you a number. So I can leave that running. The other thing that it does
Wow.
is it can um, do
Whoa.
like control your or have access. You can connect it to your different things. So you can connect it to your emails, your calendar, and you can say, this is pretty awesome. You could say last week, I had a show. I went to Kim's show and I opened up a bunch of tabs. I don't remember what they were. Can you find out, like, go through my emails, find out when that show was, open all the tabs that I opened during that time frame, and give me a report, right? Give me the headline, a description of the page that I went to, and a link. Put them in a report, open up Google Docs, save it in there, boom. Like it'll go do things for you.
Wow.
And so you could see that you would never do like you would never do that.
Right.
I
No.
only whenever I had to figure out how many total learners I had, I would only do
Yeah.
that every like few months. Now I could do it like every week. Just tell me,
Right.
what's the new thing. So those are tools that they're not really changing who you are, but
Yeah.
they give you more data and better ways of doing things that you now can work in at a different level. It's like you have a team of helpers that can
Right.
go do things for you. And just even honestly, finding out, like I literally tell it when I go to a website, can you just cancel the subscription for me? And it'll
Right.
like find that link that they're hidden between like 5 different pages, find the cancellation link, and it'll go through and cancel it for you. It's just
Wow.
I use the web in a different way now
That's
because I've
amazing.
leveraged like all those like tools that just multiply what I can do.
Yeah. I love this question from Naomi because she's talking about specifically at work.
Yeah.
If you work in
Mhm.
a corporate, if you're not an entrepreneur, if you're not a freelancer, if you work in a corporate space, should there be guardrails with companies so that their employees are not inadvertently, maybe uploading something to AI that they shouldn't be, or maybe on the reverse for you as an employee, should you be going to your boss or should you be bringing up in the marketing meeting like, hey, I think the company should be paying for my Copilot or should be paying for my Perplexity or should be paying for my Claude.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you think about that when it comes to like
Yeah.
a corporate
These
workplace.
tools, like this particular tool is known for not being liked by the cybersecurity department because just like with any other website, when you go to a website, websites can do bad things to your if you're not well protected, you don't have proper guardrails. You can go to a website and it can upload a bunch of pop-ups or do a bunch of bad things to your computer. Now, at scale, that becomes more of a problem because you can tell these tools to automate processes for you. They will have the capability of going through like hundreds of websites. So I think that we have to work through those issues, but in me showing you the future and how I leverage those things, uh, what you'll find is that companies are going to need to adopt these features securely and safely to allow their employees to be competitive with everyone else who's using these things. There are lots of problems. There's lots of security features. Over time, though, remember when everybody was kind of using ChatGPT and you just didn't tell your boss that you're using it?
Yeah.
And wow, this, Ray can really write those HR reviews so well. It's amazing. He's all of a sudden developed like this deep language for
Yeah.
conversing in a neutral manner. Well, it was really ChatGPT. I just didn't tell anyone, right? These tools are so useful and can streamline so many things that it's going to become like a competitive play for a lot of people. And over time, we've gotten more and more access to things. A lot of things that I'm showing you are very cutting edge, somewhat dangerous, but you can see the utility. And I think that that's important when you realize, wow, I don't have to spend 3 hours just editing that space on a video.
Right.
Now I can just tell the computer to do it. That's worthwhile. So I think that we're going to work through some of those security issues over time. Make sure that you consult with your company and let them know what you're using, find out what tools are allowed. But all this stuff is coming. Everybody now that is leveraging those tools is the person that you're competing with for that job.
Right.
And if I can produce better quality work by leveraging these tools, then all of a sudden you're not just competing with Ray, you're competing with cyborg Ray, who
Yeah,
has AI
exactly.
that can do so many things. And so I think the bar has changed. Same thing with what I mentioned with programming. Programmers is do instead of one commit a week or 10 commits a week, they're doing like 300 because
Yeah.
it's like your brain is just going, okay, I have this idea. Let me just have the computer implement it, and then you move on to the next thing. You're doing 10 things at a time instead of just one feature that you're adding. So that becomes eventually like something that you need to explore, learn about, see where it can help you, but at the same time, obviously, be safe and see where it fits within your company strategy.
Yeah, I love this question from Bradley, because I think a lot of us here, we like want to keep learning and we want to
Sure.
kind of stay on the forefront. Where do you go to learn kind of like the new AI tools or the best software? How are you discovering
Yeah,
these
I
things?
would not sort of do what I do
Okay.
because
Don't do
what
it,
I
right,
do is
guys?
extreme. So yeah, I
Yeah.
subscribe. I have like 10 different newsletters that I go through.
Okay.
I have like several podcasts that I listen to. And one of them is like a 3-hour podcast on every
Oh, we don't
new,
want that.
yeah,
Okay,
you don't
maybe
want
we
the
do like what's the
3-hour.
Bradley version of this,
Yeah.
not like the
So,
Ray
yeah,
version.
exactly. So that version is really what my job is about.
Yeah.
So this, I mean, and um, I don't like being self-serving, but you should totally follow me on LinkedIn because that's my
Yeah.
job. My job is to sort of show you, here's what's important, filter out all of the hype. That's, one thing that I love about working for LinkedIn is that, obviously I'm working for LinkedIn. Technically, I'm working for Microsoft, but they don't really, it's more like, I have my own voice. They don't really tell me what to say. They tell me, please don't say anything dangerous, be safe, make sure you mention the cybersecurity implications. But it's not like when you go to YouTube and you could tell that this person has a deal with somebody else, or you go to like X or wherever you do your social media, and you can see that there's like all these people talking positively about a specific product. I don't have any of that. I get paid a salary. I don't get make
Right.
commissions. So
Yeah.
I feel like I'm able to give you an honest sort of take, very geeky, in a simple way. But I feel like that's really what I do. I don't have to make money from by specifically pushing one of the models or others. So I'm really, um, I think I try to be uniquely neutral. Also, my journalism background helps with this. That I try to be like, I'll tell you what I like and what I don't like about every tool if you want to. We could spend like hours here, and I can really show you everything. So I think that's really important. Find somebody who you feel like is being honest with you about the tools, that doesn't is not necessarily have a deal with some company that is going, or if they do, that's fine too. But then understand that that's a thing and find sources like that. I tend to
Yeah.
distill tons of stuff, but that's why I'm a filter. So if you can find somebody like, you can, like this show is a filter. Find somebody you trust. And I think that is going to be the most important thing in the near future.
Yeah.
In this age where we have like thousands of bots doing things, you've noticed social media is getting polluted by the bots. I want to come
Totally.
I wanna go watch somebody who I trust and that's a real person. Have you seen
Right.
those, like, YouTube videos that are freaky or like, "That's not a
Yes.
person, right?" You're like, "That's not like a," and they
Ah,
get lots of views, and you're like, "You know what? I think that what's gonna become more and more important is that authenticity. The person that you've got a lot of people that have watched the show for a long time. That is going to be more and more crucial in the future because who do you trust? Where is
yeah.
that AI thing coming from? like,
Right.
and sometimes a lot of times, nobody, I always say in social media, nobody ever got popular by saying that we're all going to be okay with AI. Everybody goes like, we're going to lose all our jobs tomorrow. AI is going to destroy that. We are like, no, no, no. I've been, I'm a Gen Xer. I've been around some things. We kind of evolve with technology. Everybody freaked out about Photoshop at one point in time. They were like, how are you going to trust any photo? People can
Exactly.
do
What's
Photoshop. I'm like, yes,
real?
we made it through Photoshop. It was fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we're gonna make it through just fine. And you need to find people that you trust. I think
Totally. No,
or
I love
become
this
somebody that you
point.
trust. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a good point that that's going to become more important now than sort of ever before. So,
Mhm.
as we wrap up here, for somebody who's kind of leaning in, being like, I like Ray's teaching style. I kind of like that he's out there gathering all the data, then he's bringing it back to me in like a concise way. Obviously, you have so many courses on LinkedIn. What do you think is the best place for somebody to like start? Because they might say like, oh my gosh, she's over 100 courses.
Yeah,
Like,
I
I don't
got
even
it.
know where do I begin? What's like a good, I guess, shallow end entry point for somebody who's listening or watching with us today?
Excellent point. Number one, follow me. I do tend to cover very technical things. So sometimes I will go full geek on some sort of feature. So, and I came from a developer background. So even then, I'm not necessarily sort of like, if you're following me, you're going to go see like super nerd Ray talk about this technology
Yeah.
and that technology. A lot of people that follow me are developers. So I speak to that audience. We have a specific, course on LinkedIn called AI Trends. And
Okay.
this has for me, a specific audience, which is, people who are trying to figure out what this technology is about. So you could see here that I recently did a course on OpenClaw, which is that a thing that everybody's talking about now. Uh, would love to probably tell you a few things about that. But I talked about Cloud Cowork plugins. So that's another fantastic tool, Gemini and Chrome, that feature that I was telling you with the browsers, and they can take over your screen and do things for you. So this to me is the perfect course for somebody who wants to watch something that filters out a ton of the noise and watch, you know, quick. I call them, I don't believe in fluff in my episodes. So when you were saying like, yeah, sometimes I feel like I have to like replay, it's because I edit my stuff super, super tight so that you're not getting,
Right.
we watch a video and
Yeah.
you're like, okay, the video was about tying a knot. And you're like, hey there, I am Bob. And I've been a knot master for 30 years. Today, I'll be talking to you about this particular knot. Let me tell you a story. And it'll be like 32 seconds to like a
Right.
minute of the
Yes.
intro. And you're like,
Yeah.
listen, Bob, I just wanted to tie the knot. Can you just get the
Right.
knot going quickly? That's one thing I don't believe in. And so I get straight into the point.
Yeah.
And that's the style I think of this series. Most of these are my videos. And that's probably one of the things that you watched, or one of the things that everybody should watch. Follow me, follow people like you who
Yeah.
you trust, and we can be great filters. I think find the person that you really speaks to you, follow them, and they're going to be your filter into all this stuff. I think between you and me, we make a good team in filtering out what's important to different audiences. David
Yeah.
last week has a kind of a C-suite audience. That's
Right.
great. So that he's a different filter. So I think that
Different filter.
find your filter and follow that.
Totally. No, I feel like that's so good. Well, like you, we are big nerds around these parts and we love homework. So if you could give us a homework assignment for the rest of the week, it could be to download something or read something or do something or try something. What would be your homework assignment for us?
Okay, I want to give you the Cortez assignment, which is burn a ship. This is how I make myself learn something new. I say
Okay.
something like, this week, I'm going to take this tool that I'm using and that I'm really comfortable with, and I'm going to burn it. Like Cortez burned the ships when he got to the New World, right? Everybody knows that story. And I'm going to try to do that same thing with a new tool. And I'm going to make a point that no matter how hard it is, for whatever period of time, it could be like a day or two, try it a different way and try to figure out
Yeah.
what you learn from it. I like what I call the 15% solution. I like to try to not necessarily pick a new completely tool that I have no idea what I'm doing with. Pick something that I kind of understand. So like if you like
Yeah.
Claude, maybe you try Gemini next week. Instead of
Right.
ChatGPT, I'm just going to use it and I'm going to find something about it, perhaps watch a course or ask me on LinkedIn or, in the chat, hey, I'm trying to figure out how to do this. What tool should I burn? That would be a great hashtag burn your tool or something.
Yeah,
Burn your
exactly.
ship. Right. And then I'll give you some suggestions if you want about what you should burn. But that's how I learn. Like a lot of times, I remember one time I was trying to, this is eons ago, I was trying to learn a new desktop publishing tool. And I had always used this tool called PageMaker or like Quark Express or something.
Yeah.
And the next week, I'm like, I have a project that I'm going to need to do, and I'm going to use this different thing that I never used before. But you know what? I know the topic. I know I've done so much print design that I know how to print design. It's just that I'm going to use something that I'm not used to. And after the week, I'm like, this tool is actually, everybody's been talking about this thing, and it's actually much better. And I learn. That's how I've made switches to completely new things by trying
Wow.
those two techniques. Burn it for a week. Try it. I always also tell people, try something from somebody that you disagree with, even if it's just to prove them wrong, right? Because you're going to learn something about that new tool or what that person is saying that changes your perspective. And if
Hmm.
you've never tried that, it's really a fantastic exercise. So burn your ships, hashtag burn your ships. Mention me on LinkedIn and I'll tell you what to burn.
I
Like, what do
love
you?
it. Burn the ships, burn the boats,
Yeah.
tag Ray and I. We'd love to see what you're burning. Ray, thank you so much for taking the time with us today. We really appreciate it and got So many. And I'm sorry to everybody. I know there's like a million more questions, but Ray and I couldn't get to all of them. But thank you guys so much for joining. And thank you, Ray, for imparting just so much wisdom on us. We really appreciate it.
So much fun, Kim. I was so excited that you invited me. I'm like, wow. I'm usually such a nerd that, like I'm usually getting invites from very technical people. So it was so great because I've definitely, I obviously knew who you were. I've seen your stuff before. You have a fantastic LinkedIn learning course. Everybody loves you there. And so I was like, oh, wow, I can't believe that somebody and with a different perspective invited me. So I love that. That's actually a really strong thing to do. And that's why I say burn your ships, find somebody who you maybe you don't agree with 100% with, but I learned so much from watching how David, reaches out to C-suite individuals and what he does. I always learn something from somebody who thinks slightly different.
1,000%. No,
Mhm.
this has been so helpful. I have so many more things that I need to go try as my homework assignment. So thank you so much, Ray. And thank you, everybody, Sarah and Darius and Zakia and Aaron and Jeff. Thank you guys so much for being here. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Same time, same place. Bye.